It's Sunday afternoon. We're in Salt Lake City. Summit Games have finished up. We had 3 days of competition. We got Bryson DelMonte, who was competing in the men's elite division, and Carl Kaplan, 45 to 49.
Correct.
Yeah, they opened a lane up for you there on the outside.
They did.
Are you 45?
Yeah. Why do you like to ask that all the time?
I don't.
Perspective.
He likes to ask it. I'm 20 years older than him. I think he likes to take shots.
No, I just thought you were in 40 to 44.
45 to 49.
That's why I was wondering, because I figured you were on the low end of that.
I'll text you my birthday so you can
Remember?
and send me cash.
Put it in the calendar. Notifications every year.
Yeah.
And, both of you guys train pretty seriously. Carl, you've been competing a bunch this year. Have you competed much this year, Bryson, outside of the game season?
No. The last individual competition I did was Charlotte Classic.
Which is almost a year ago now,
Yeah.
about 11 months ago. So, Carl, maybe we'll start with you. You know, you've kind of been on the grind this year. This is your third competition.
It is.
And as we mentioned, you're pretty old.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, because people talk about this in CrossFit a lot. How's the body holding up with 3 competitions this season compared to maybe a year where you're training more?
My body feels good. Physically, I feel good, but I go out of my way to take care of myself. I sleep properly. I eat properly. I recover properly. So I would say physically, I feel good right now. I mean, maybe just to jump right into it after Summit Games this weekend, mentally, maybe I don't feel the best. That competition did not go the way I was hoping it. I was hoping that it would.
Well, we'll get into that for sure. Before we dive into that a little bit, Bryson, why did you decide to compete here?
I actually didn't know about Summit Games until Carl asked me about it, but he said that HGR was sponsoring the event, asked me to come out and do it. And I like competing individually. I just don't find a lot of competitions that I want to do, really. I'm not on the hunt. I mean, that's mostly on me. I could be a little more active in searching for competitions and stuff. But I usually just wait till something comes across my plate and I have a reason to do it. I like competing, but I'd probably like to do it a little bit more. And Carl asked me to do this one, so.
Yeah, and it was open registration.
Yeah.
It's not like you missed a qualifier or whatever, so
Right.
there were still open spots and you could sign up and do it, which is nice. There are a few things about this competition that I think are important to know. One is it's at altitude. 4,300 feet is what I've been told is the altitude here. None of us live or train at that kind of altitude, and it definitely makes a difference. Carl, did it affect you at all this weekend, do you think?
I don't think it was the altitude that was my issue.
You live at like 2,000 something, don't you?
I don't know. Mostly in Las Vegas. What is it?
2,500.
2,500.
That's a lot different than where you're living in Charlotte. I think we looked it up. We're like 80 feet of elevation or something.
Yeah, but
I don't think it was the altitude that was my issue.
Okay, we're gonna try to find a variety of different excuses for you.
Again, like I don't have excuses. I definitely think it was on me. It's on me. I
was talking to Mike Evans about this. I do think that played a factor. I've never felt like that working out, but at the end of the day, if I was fitter, I would have done better. Regardless of, what percent of my potential in these workouts I hit because of, how hot it is or whatever the elevation is or how I slept the night before, all that's part of competing. And if you're fitter, then you do better. So it doesn't matter. Same thing with like even the programming and stuff. Even if a bunch of workouts, just I get unlucky and it's a bunch of stuff I suck at, if I was fitter, I'd do better. So,
and I think that's kind of going to be a theme of what we talk about is that there's a difference between like making observations and acknowledging things and making excuses and justifying.
Right. That's actually another thing. I had this conversation with Mike as well. It's like you got to be rational about it when you're taking things back into your training. And then you also have to be like not make excuses for yourself while you're competing. Like I know that I'm not, terrible at lunging and burpee broad jumps. and I know, that workout just went poorly on the day for whatever reason it was, I know I don't have to like go hammer that in training at home. But I also know while I was here, it doesn't matter why I did bad. So that's what it is.
Thoughts, Carl?
Thoughts? I think the couple things that I did do poorly at are things that I need to hammer at. Specifically that last workout with the kipping ring dips. I can't let that happen again. And again, that's 100% on me. It's not the program. It's not the competition. It's not the coaches. It's 100% on me not being prepared for that movement, even though that movement wasn't put in until the last minute. A big part of the CrossFit methodology is the unknown and unknowable, and something unknown and unknowable came up, and clearly I got exposed badly on that movement, and I can't, there is no, like, I'm not making excuses. That was entirely on me.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, you did have that kind of shoulder problem that was going on. You haven't spent a lot of time on the rings. You had an AMRAP of ring muscle ups and 30 ring dips in within a 24-hour period of time for you.
I feel like it's almost worse for the RX guys having those workouts on separate days. I feel like I can more easily do ring muscle ups in a workout and then go into the next workout and do ring dips on the same day, same couple hours. Then do a max 2 minutes of ring muscle ups, go home, sleep, wake up the next day, be sore, and then come back and do ring dips. Like, that's a little bit sketchy.
I think it's a little bit fair that you mentioned that, because I did have that injury and I wasn't able to be on the rings for an extended period of time. But then when I started getting back on the rings this summer, my main focus was kipping on the ring muscle up and strict ring dips and building up sets of strict ring dips. But it was just a total afterthought. I never thought of even doing kipping ring dips. And again, that's on me. That was my fault for not being prepared.
Well, also the stuff that you need to work on and the kip on your ring muscle ups is the same stuff. Like the press out of a dip on a ring muscle up is the same as on a ring dip. Should be. And the things that I've told you in the past to work on when you're kipping out of the dip on a muscle up are the same things I told you today, and weren't very to think about on the ring dip. So,
but then again, I think there's a difference when you're doing 3, 4, 5, 10 ring muscle ups as opposed to doing 30 kipping ring dips. Mm-hmm. If you're just going to
should all look the same. If it doesn't, that's the problem.
There was a lot of problems on that workout.
Well, what are some good things? What are some good things from the weekend?
I mean, again, I think some of the good thing is you cannot get experience without getting experience. And it's on me to not let something like that happen again. Also, I think there was some good points. Even one of the workouts where I didn't score well, I feel like I did the best at was the I believe it wasn't it a 150-foot sprint, 150-foot sled push? What was after that?
It's carry.
150-foot sandbag carry, 2 rounds of that, then finished with a 150-foot sprint. I finished in under 3 minutes, which was a low score in my division, but I feel like that was a fast time. Especially sprinting workouts are not always my best workout. I can say I was happy with that event for myself personally.
Yeah, I have a similar experience on the switchbacks workout. I feel like that was the one workout of the weekend where I was like, I feel like I'm working out and I feel like I'm doing CrossFit, and I just feel like I paced it well for myself. And the 165 bar felt pretty good, and it wasn't like the greatest placement in my division, but I was pretty happy and content with what I did after the workout.
Okay. What was your positive experience?
What
positive experience did you have?
I was doing the live stream,
I'd say your whole weekend was positive.
Yeah, that's pretty positive. For the second year in a row here, I've done the live stream with Functional Vision. Feliz is the guy who owns and runs and operates that, and he's got a setup that's pretty user friendly, so I can kind of like direct and commentate at the same time without being on the field of play and moving around like
Yeah.
I usually do. So it's a little bit more of it's like a relaxed environment, but also
Slightly more removed.
it's removed, and there's also like a lot going on.
Yeah.
Because I was able to get some guests, but it was mostly just me. I'm looking at leaderboards, I'm looking at movements, the workouts, I'm looking at the camera angles, I'm trying to remember who the athletes are, and I'm doing it for almost all of the divisions. So there's like pros and cons, and it's just a little different than what I usually do.
Yeah.
At the same time, because I mean, you guys have brought up the programming a bunch, and obviously talking about little nuances of it. I was actually sent the original programming in April for this competition from Adrian Conway, and Adrian Conway came on today on the show and talked actually a lot about this on the live stream. If anyone listened to him on the live stream, he was saying things like that barbell that you talked about, that was meant to be a 100-pound dumbbell.
Yeah.
The ring muscle ups, that was meant to be an L sit hold. Actually the ring dips were not supposed to be on rings; they were supposed to be on parallettes.
Yeah.
So like the sandbag, it wasn't supposed to be there. It was supposed to be this like dense goblet squat. There were a lot of changes based on equipment availability from what I first saw in April, the revisions that I saw in May, and what ended up being on the field of play today.
Yeah.
Or this weekend.
And obviously, a lot of that is due to time domains, especially when you have multiple divisions. Time domains start to get super tight. Equipment, equipment limitations, but then also like sponsors who want you to use their equipment.
Sure.
But that's the first competition I've done where there's no dumbbell.
Well,
I don't think that's a bad thing.
There's no dumbbell.
I mean, we can flip back all the way to 2017 regionals. There were no barbells.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
So, I think in terms of that, like every once in a while, having something that doesn't show up very often or something that doesn't show up that you expect to see is okay.
Yeah. I do think that workout would have been better with the dumbbell, but I don't think just no dumbbell straight up means it's bad. I mean, if there was something that you always knew was going to be a competition, that wouldn't be unknown and unknowable. If you could always count on a dumbbell, same reason you can't always count on a swim being at the games. There wasn't a swim 2 years ago.
Right.
Like, you can't just count on something always being there. So.
Well, I'll say another positive that we had was we had a lot of support. There was a lot of people that came from our gym that supported our business, supported this venue. Brian is here. We've been working with Brian for a number of years. You came out, so I definitely appreciate all the support that we had over the weekend. I think that was a big positive. I'm just still, I think that's what bothers me so much about the performance I had on the last day is, in a way, I feel like I let a lot of these people down by performing so poorly when, everybody traveled a long way to come here. And, I'm really grateful for all the support. I'm grateful that you came out. Grateful that Brian had me a part of the broadcast on Saturday, and super grateful that everybody from the gym, not only the people that participated in this event, there was a lot of people from our gym that just came out not only to support me but to support the other athletes that are in our gym. And I just think I not only owe it to myself but owe it to them to not let something like this happen again and put out a better performance.
Well, I think it's cool too, like those people coming out to, like you said, not just support the people competing, but support an event that you're sponsoring.
Yeah.
Like, that's already a plus.
Super cool.
You brought those people here,
Yeah.
and I mean you're sponsoring the event, and now the event knows that more people are at their event because of you. That's cool, and
it's not free to come here. You got to take time out of your day to come here. Got to make arrangements, you got to pay to come here. You got to pay to spectate. And, I'm thinking about a lot of that right now.
Well, it's also, it's easy to say when you're the one competing and you feel like you didn't do well. It always feels like you let people down. But anytime you're on the other side of it and you're watching someone you care about compete, how they do means nothing. Like, I
think that it's a lot different if you see someone that's competing, you're supporting someone and they're competing and they do poorly compared to if they're competing and they're not trying hard.
Yeah. coming out to watch someone compete and just like walk through workouts and not try is probably frustrating, but I've never seen that happen really. At least personally with people I know. I mean, I've seen people walk through like games workouts and give up. I'm like, wow, I wonder if their family came out to watch them, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it looked like.
And Carl, and
I mean,
no,
I did not.
I want to ask you that because you guys have said to me today, this is the worst I've done in a competition. Both of you have said that, and you feel some element of that. But when you look back at the workouts, there might be things where you could say, okay, in hindsight, maybe I should have pushed harder here. Maybe I should have taken a break here, whatever, those little details. But do you feel like in the moment that there was a lack of effort on the competition floor, or was it either just bad workouts, bad circumstances, or,
Well, for me personally, I don't even have that hindsight like, oh, I could have gone faster there. Why didn't I go faster? Which, everyone is familiar with. Everyone knows what that like is in a CrossFit workout. You finish and you're like, I couldn't have gone any faster. And then 5 minutes later, you're like, man, I shouldn't have broken those dumbbell snatches or whatever it is. But I actually don't have any of that hindsight. I could have gone faster. I think the most frustrating thing is like when you do a workout and it doesn't even hurt because like things aren't working. That's how I felt on all the sprint workouts, like the 150 feet of a bunch of stuff. All those ones, every time like we started, I just felt like my muscles were shutting down, but my body wasn't working, but I wasn't like hurting. It wasn't the kind of hurt that you can like lean into and it's like, all right, I got to make a choice. Do I want to hurt more or do I want to pull back and be comfortable? It was like, yeah, I just can't really do anything right now. So, that is a little, it's pretty frustrating in the moment, especially when you know what it's like to get to that place where you can decide if you want to hurt more or not, and you get familiar with hurting more. Like you get familiar with making the right choice and being like, no, this is temporary, I can lean into it, I want to hurt more. Like, I feel like that's something I've worked on a lot and I've gotten a lot better at, and then, you feel robbed of that decision when, just... I don't know.
I equate this in training and competing that I've done to workouts that are limited by like either my aerobic threshold or pain tolerance compared to things that are limited by muscular fatigue. Mm-hmm. That's how I generalize it. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that like if there's like muscular failure, or like your legs get too pumped up or whatever, and then there's like you almost feel like when you get like the flu and your body just kind of feels like jelly. That's kind of what the first day I thought I was sick or something. I was like blowing blood out of my nose and stuff. Like it was.
Jeez.
But I think that was just like adjusting to the environment and stuff, which again, like we said earlier, is all part of competing. And then there was good moments of the weekend too. So, and it was fun. I would say my highlight of the weekend was just hanging out with like the guys in my division. Matt Wilson was really cool. Drake and Mike were super cool, especially for guys, leading the pack the entire weekend.
Sure, guys like that.
You show up to competitions like this, and they're like, they act like they're a different clique, and it's like, no, these. Yeah,
we're the semifinalists. Cool. Who are you guys?
Yeah, exactly.
There was none of that from them.
Right, none. They were super cool.
Your experience in terms of how you were feeling day by day, and I think also by your general performance on leaderboard was kind of similar to BKG at the Tier Cup. Just like a zombie on day one. Yeah. And by day 3, he looked a little bit more like himself.
I did feel significantly better as the weekend went on. Like each day was a noticeable difference from the day before. I mean, I still did really, really bad on one of the scores today, the second part of the first workout. And it felt the same as like the workouts on day 1 that felt that way. But the recovery from it was a little bit better, and it wasn't so like, oh, it zapped me. Like on day 1, when I got that feeling, it stayed with me the whole day, and like I started to feel sick and
like literally physically stayed with you.
Yeah. But then today, I got destroyed in the workout, but then afterwards, it's like I feel okay a little bit quicker, which I wonder if that is just adjusting a little bit, but
we've been. Talking a little bit about physical fatigue or, not feeling good, also some mental and emotional. whether it's, workout to workout, or like, Carl, you're sitting here at the end of the weekend and you're, you don't feel great about the way that everything went down. And in general, an observation that I've made over the time I've been doing and covering this sport is that, like, I've rarely met an athlete who's had a competition go perfectly.
Yeah.
And everyone gets to a point, whether it's in the competition or the end of the competition, where they're frustrated, disappointed in themselves. And the best athletes that I've seen over the period of time are the people that have figured out how to deal with that quickly.
Yeah, 100%. After the first event, which was the lifting complex, is probably the worst a game plan has ever gone for me in a workout. I mean, I've had worse finishes, like I've gotten last and whatever.
Well, if people didn't watch it, like, you missed your first attempt.
I missed my first attempt, so then I stripped the bar to something light that I was like, okay, well, at least I can just, this will be easy. And then I missed that as well. So then I had to strip it to something even lighter, which was pretty crazy for me. And I was talking to Taylor on the phone after that, and I was like, I was probably just trying to lie to myself. I was like, well, like, competing wouldn't be fun if you just, like, won every workout. And he was like, I don't know, the most fun I've ever had a competition was so-and-so when I've won, like, every event. And I was like, yeah, I'm lying. The most fun I've ever had a competition was when I did Charlotte Classic and the RX and just destroyed everybody. So it is really fun to win. But, part of what makes winning fun is, probably that you don't win all the time.
And Taylor's dealt with this. I mean, the first time I ever met Taylor in person was at Granite Games 2021. And he had an execution error on a workout he thought he should have done well at. And I talked to him two days later. That was Friday. On Sunday morning, it was all he was thinking about.
Yeah.
Like, he had not figured out how to put that behind him and move forward. So he's actually probably a pretty good person to have an opportunity to talk to about something like that.
That was the biggest thing that he did talk about to me, because after the lifting event, I knew that something was wrong. I was pretty sure it was the elevation change that I wasn't used to. And he was like, all right, well, even if that is the case, you can't do anything about it, so we're not talking about it anymore. Like, you just keep thinking about the next workout and just do what you need to do. Which was good, because I think his point was that I can't think about it in terms of, like, using it as an excuse, but I did think about it a little bit in terms of, like, game plans. Like, I've done most of the workouts in training, and I had to approach a couple of them differently, because I was like, hey, even though I know I'm, like, capable of doing this right now, I'm gonna try that and blow up immediately. So I just gotta, like, I have to be aware of it, like we said earlier. You gotta be aware of it in some, like, circumstances, but then you also can't use it as an excuse or lean on it in other ones. So it was just being aware of it and trying to change game plans, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But
Carl, I know you're, like, eager to get back to training, eager to hammer some of these weaknesses, but you also, you mentioned it on this show already, and you've talked to me about it personally, that you understand there's a value in being able to stay healthy for a long period of time and have consistency in sleep, in recovery, in training, in nutrition, etc. What are your, what have you found to work to find a balance for that?
I don't know. I feel like that's a difficult question for me to answer at this point. I mean, really, I don't feel well balanced right now. The way this event ended, honestly, has really affected me mentally. I don't know how it's going to affect me mentally even going back into training. I'm sure this is something I'm probably going to think about every day. Every day until the next time. I'm not saying the next time we get into a competition that has to be a 3-day event, but till the next time I do some type of anything in a competitive setting, I'm probably gonna think about this, and it's gonna be mentally challenging to see how I'm able to, move past this. And again, it's totally on me, not prepared to do kipping ring dips in a workout. And if you're not prepared, then you get exposed. And I guess the thing that you can learn from that is to make sure that you have well-balanced training.
Like you said earlier, too, like, this isn't life or death.
It's not life or death.
We got to have a good trip.
We all had a good time. We had a good time.
Yeah.
We had a good time.
I mean, I'll I am obviously not happy with my performance, but I mean, I had a good weekend, and it does make me eager to do another individual competition pretty soon. The plan kind of was after this to, me and Maris are moving, so, get all that stuff done and focus on Sentinel and stuff for a little bit, which is still the plan and still what I'm going to be able to do, but after, focusing on Sentinel and getting ready for, by the time we're done with that, probably getting ready for the Open and stuff, I definitely am going to be on the lookout for another competition maybe a little bit sooner than I originally thought I was going to.
I feel like me too. I wasn't planning on really doing much of anything for 6 months except getting stronger, regular training, hammering weaknesses. But now I feel like I have to get out there again and do something. And for me, different than you though.
Probably a good time domain anyway. You don't want to.
I don't want to think about this for 6 months like this.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You should probably wait 6 months anyway. You don't want to just get into another competition before you have time to get better at these things.
That's a solid point. It's a solid point.
He's vetting competitions for Kipping Ring dips.
Yeah.
Well, Carl, but if there's something in your life,
but for me, it's not like not to interrupt, but I mean, the Open's more of a big deal to you than it is to me. The Open to me is just something that's like online that nobody sees, nobody cares about. We came out here to Utah, and again, there's a lot of people that came out here to support our business, to support our gym, and to support me. And the next time I get out there on the competition floor in a live competition, I don't want to look the way that I look today. To the Open's just the Open. I don't want to downplay the Open. A lot of people like the Open. I'm not talking bad about it, but more important to me is doing well in a live competition setting.
I get what you're saying. It is definitely more fulfilling to perform really well in a live comp than it is in an online comp. But I also get I place a lot of value on, how I do in quarterfinals. And that is the main priority of my entire year. And then if I have a competition I want to do, it's more of an afterthought. I don't want to say afterthought. I feel like that's not really giving, the competitions I do any respect. But I'm training for quarterfinals year round. And then if I have a competition, I'll maybe, taper a couple days before. But I'm still the workouts I'm doing are still to get me better for quarterfinals. I'm
curious, because we talk about competition reps are they're great experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But live competition, like this competition, doesn't really correlate to a better quarterfinals performance. Do you do any online qualifiers throughout the year that does simulate that a little bit more? Or have you thought about doing that?
I always do the crash qualifiers. And in years past, I've known that I wouldn't qualify. This year, I somehow convinced myself that I maybe had a chance, but I didn't.
Well, one thing about online qualifiers is you never know who's signing up. So
yeah, you don't know who's signing up. We didn't know for a while how many people JR was taking, and obviously, with online qualifiers, you don't know the workouts until right before, which is the best
Similar
part about
quarterfinals.
it for me, I think.
Yep.
I've never done an in-person competition where you didn't know the workouts until the night before.
Would you
but
like
I would
to?
love that, dude. I would. It's better for me, I think, relative to the field. I think I would do better at that because I already am very apprehensive in testing stuff. Testing workouts that come out ahead of time. I don't like to specialize or over-prepare for stuff. But Taylor was really getting on me to test some of these Summit Games workouts, and then just the couple days before, I just didn't know what to do workout wise. So I was I guess I'll just do one or two of them. But that was really the first time I've ever tested workouts like that before a competition. And I will say I do not like doing that. I would rather just not know the workouts, which
I can relate to that. Throughout the years of doing, I think I've done 11 consecutive Opens, and I'm one of these rare guys that usually my first performance is pretty close to my best performance. And if I retest them, I usually don't improve by much.
Yeah.
Carl, I didn't want to let this go. You were basically are telling us that there's a thought in your mind that's going to be in your mind for an extended period of time. And, you know, I can relate to this in certain ways. It's a touchy subject, but you know, I lost a friend at the CrossFit Games this year, and I think about him every day. And I know that I have a choice, if I'm going to think about him, and let it drag me down, or to think about it and try to find a way to use that as a motivation and to lift me up. Have you had any, you know, experience with that? You've been through some shit in your life, you know?
Yeah, and I would agree with that assessment to a point. In no type of way is anything or any type of way that I feel right now even close to the situation that you're talking about. It's two totally different things entirely. But yes, I can use this to lead me in one of two directions. It's either going to lead me down a positive path where I'm going to focus on it, I'm going to make improvements, and the next time I get out there, it's going to be a better, more positive experience. Or two, it can go the other way, and you can have a total meltdown and fall apart, which is not what I'm intending to do.
You know, I mean, when we're talking about competition reps, part of those reps are getting shitty reps in and learning how to deal with it. I guess I didn't even think about this or articulate it until now, but one of the best parts of this weekend was the fact that I didn't really do anything great or that I was proud of, but I was kind of, I don't want to say okay with that, because then it seems like I don't care about doing well, but I feel like I handled it pretty well. I didn't let it affect my, you know, mood as much as it probably would have in the past when we come home and, you know, I'm having dinner with Maris. I don't have to be in like a shitty mood the whole time just because, you know, I didn't push a sled as fast as some other guy. Like, it's all good.
Yeah. Like, and that's a really good thing.
Yeah. And I feel like in the past, I definitely would not have handled it that well. So I think that's a good takeaway from this weekend.
But maybe on the other point of, we did Mountain West. It was a team event in Idaho. That was about 5 weeks ago, and we were contending for the podium in the last event, finished second in the last event. And maybe that was a good thing, but maybe looking back on it, maybe I got too cocky. Maybe that's why I had problems this weekend. I don't know. But you can't get experience without experience. So still, the positive thing is I was out on that competition floor, 3-day setting, in what I would say is a medium-sized event.
Well, I mean, you know, people in sports and in life, you know, they talk about this all the time, right? If you have a positive experience, if you're winning, if you're succeeding, you know, where do you get the motivation to keep going?
Yeah.
And if you're struggling and you're not meeting your goals, whatever it is, you know, how do you find the resilience to come back from that? And then you see these people that somehow, highs and lows, they kind of weather the storm and just continue doing the work on a daily basis.
And overcoming adversity is a big part of CrossFit and the things that we do. You know, doing hard stuff is... I
mean, yeah, just thinking about Frazier winning the games 5 years in a row. Like, he had to convince himself that everyone hated him and everyone wanted to program him out of the games, and, you know, everyone at CrossFit hated that he was winning and wanted him out of there. Like, none of it's true, but he had to convince himself of that, because you can't, like, torture yourself for 8 hours a day for...
I mean, Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech.
I got programmed right out of
something. Made up stories about people to motivate himself.
Yeah. You tell it to yourself enough and it starts to become true.
Yeah.
Frazier's on a rower for 90 minutes at a time. It's like, Dave Castro just wants to program me out of the games. I'm not going to let him. Like, and Dave doesn't even give him a second thought. Like, so, I mean, yeah, that just further proves the point. Like, it is easy. I don't think you got cocky, but it's easy to get a little comfortable or like come into a competition with a little bit less nerves because you think, oh, I did really well in my last competition, but maybe you need those nerves. Maybe they make you push a little bit harder, whatever it is.
Carl, you and I talked on the broadcast a little bit about being like a leader in a community, being a role model and example in a community. Both of you guys have that kind of role to some extent. Like, you know, obviously, Carl, at your gym and with your company, And then Bryson, like, you know, as you've elevated within Train Sentinel, you've had a more public platform on some of the podcasts with programming as you've gained some more clients. Is that something that you guys are conscious of, like when you come out there and compete? Is, you know, people are watching you, but also that they may be inspired by what you're doing out there, even if you're not that happy with how it went?
Yeah, no, I'm really conscious of that, and I can't think of a time in the last 10 years where I felt worse than how I feel right now. And I feel like, as I said before, that I let everybody down.
We didn't like it.
And maybe in a way to turn that into a positive is being able to overcome this and, you know, do better the next time, and not just because you get knocked down. It's not how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you pick yourself back up. And that's, you know, but again, getting back to what you were saying before, like I probably cannot wait 6 months to.
Well, you need to, because you're not going to get better at ring dips in a month and show up to a competition.
But I might have to compete against you in your garage or something before then.
Do some classes.
Just to feel better about myself.
All that stuff helps. But I think that's an interesting point, Brian. Like, even on the first day, the only people I beat in the lifting complex were people who missed all their attempts. So I'm like sitting almost dead last on the leaderboard. But every time I walk up into the warm-up area, someone in my division that I've never met before is like walks up to me and it's like, Bryson, like, I do Sentinel, or Bryson, like, I love listening to you on the podcast. Like, Bryson, the show last night was so funny, and like wants to talk about training or programming or whatever it is. And I'm almost embarrassed because I'm like, dude, I'm getting clapped right now. Like you really want to listen to me about programming, but it's stuff I really care about, and I like helping these people. And you know, even if my way of helping them is just talking something out or giving them like a feedback so they can talk something out for themselves. Like, I love that kind of thing, and yeah, I was very conscious of that this time, and like I said, I haven't competed since Charlotte, and then no one knew who I was. I mean, not like a bunch of people know who I am now, but like enough people that some people come after. Yeah. So no one. I've never been in this position before, and it was interesting, and I was definitely really grateful for it.
And you've been on the road, like you've gone to some other competitions. You maybe haven't always competed at them, and I think it'll continue to happen. You know, it's something that I had to adapt to over time. Is I used to go to competitions and hardly anybody knew who I was there, and now I go places and I don't know if anyone's gonna know me or not, or how many people are gonna know me, and what they're gonna say to me, good or bad, you know, or otherwise.
Yeah.
It increases my kind of like level of awareness that, you know, even when you're not thinking about it necessarily, that you can be impacting people in ways that maybe you hadn't thought of.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like, I just can't state or overstate how grateful I was to have that kind of unique experience. We did like recap shows every day. The second day I walked in the warm-up area, and within 5 minutes, no less than 5 people came up to me and were like, I'm surprised they let you in here today. But yeah, it was funny. I mean, and it was cool. It was like a great way to break the ice with a lot of the dudes I was competing against. That's the first thing Drake said to me. He was like, dude, I feel like I know you because I just see you on the podcast all the time. So.
Right, 50 minutes. All right, well, we're wrapping up, I would say. This one's.
Well, yeah, let's wrap it up then. Carl, you know, obviously you're not in the best headspace you've ever been in. I do think that it's also important for humans in general to be vulnerable. So like, I give you credit for sharing some of that. But you know, what do you think what are you walking away from this weekend with on the positive side of things, or kind of in terms of motivations going forward?
I'm highly motivated to get better. I hope that what you are saying is accurate by expressing a little bit of vulnerability. Maybe that also helps somebody else out along the way. Well, I guess we all have difficult times in different ways, but we have to push forward and overcome it. So maybe that can be a positive thing. Maybe I can turn a not such a great result into a positive thing in the long run.
Yeah, I would say the biggest positives for me was just the group of guys that I was competing with are really cool. It was cool hanging out with them all weekend. I also PR'd my max out muscle ups, so that was pretty cool.
20.
Yeah,
It's pretty sick.
and then I also found out that I'm better at legless than I thought I was.
But yeah,
Or really, I knew how good I was at legless. I thought other people were better, so I found out how not good other
Well, the
people were.
last time you competed individually in Charlotte, there was legless rope climbs in the last workout.
Yeah.
You kind of vaulted past a few guys as a result of a great performance there. And, you know, I don't know where you ended up finishing in that workout actually overall, but your speed on those 3 legless workouts was either matched by one or no other people on the field.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, hey, if we want to talk about taking a negative experience and turning it into a positive, I told this story on the broadcast, but basically I got benched in a legless workout. Not completely benched, but I just got moved down in
Relegated.
order. Yeah, I got relegated, and I should have been in the second spot, and I wasn't, and it really, really rubbed me the wrong way. I was pretty mad about it.
team crash workout.
Yeah, and I started doing legless like twice a week since then. So
Probably gonna do leg dips a lot.
I'll just kind of end by saying this because I was at the Iron Games in Cedar City last year. Summit Games rebranded, moved to a new city, bigger venue, tons of changes. There were a lot of variables in the lead up to this that I don't think were that went the way that it was meant to be. There were a lot of late changes in programming, equipment, vendors, things that not everyone necessarily thinks about. But I also saw a lot of potential in the venue, a lot of potential in this event to grow going forward. And I think that if Brigham sticks to it and brings it back here next year, same venue, same city, with some of the things that he's learned this weekend, that no matter how good or bad anyone thought that this weekend was, that it's going to be substantially better.
yeah, all you can do is improve from it. Same thing for us. All we can worry about is trying to improve, and the only thing Brigham can do is worry about, you know, letting other people handle the program.
No.
You can bleep that if you want.
All right, guys. Thanks for
That's it.
the conversation. Good stuff this weekend. Fun hanging out.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thank you, Brian.